Gary Gates era about to begin. Jacob Phaup against Connor DiPiero. Phaup wins the face-off clean.
30 everything bagels on a bacon, egg, and cheese combo. That is a beautiful thing.
The sanitation rating, as long as you pass, that's all that matters. You know where they need to take their business to? Charlottesville. The folks in Charlottesville, I love them.
Shots
they think
fired.
They have great bagels.
Be number ones or first team All-Americans this year. But Coach Petra will make sure off ball they are accountable, they are hungry, and they are playing fast. You a righty Dodger who can separate from his defender.
23 goals a season ago, a third-team All-American. Syracuse now 6 of 6 at the Faceoff X.
Nuts, right? Gary Gates smiling and laughing already in the first quarter.
He knows the challenge this year. We talked about it a little bit in the open.
He's been down in Florida for a bunch of years and saw him, and I think his ceiling is high, but it's just unknown at this point. There's so many of those guys, like you and I were going through the too deep, like there's a lot of unknowns here. Doesn't mean that these guys can't step up, and they're going to want to play for Gary Gate, Dave Petramala, and Pat March, and T.D. Erlin. Who wouldn't want to play for that?
No longer part of the equation at Syracuse. Stepped into that starting attack spot. Down the stretch, he was terrific. 10 goals, 4 assists in the last 4 games of 2021.
Yeah, he grew up loving the orange. His dad played at Syracuse, and Bob from that experience in playing in the Dome, Anish.
Well, it's 9-0. Maybe a goalie change is what we see in quarter number 2. Moved to A.J. Fox, but it may be too little too late. Last year in the Dome, 18 out of 32, the 18 saves a career high. And Syracuse
has a lot of experience playing with high-end talent in ball movement as a high school player, so he's fitting into this offense really well.
Phaup continues his dominant soccer player in stores.
Dean. And you even see that out of the move, right? It kind of looks like a hockey move, right? Uses his body, the quick wrists in terms of lifting that. When some of these young guys give us an answer of what this second midfield looks like, what these guys like Kikemo are going to look like. If these
out of Worcester, Massachusetts. It is not spelled the way it sounds.
Curry's a smart lacrosse player. He's been doing it for 5 years at Syracuse. Finds Berkman.
Well, that is the second violation. Lacrosse turned it into a scrap, and this may be a push.
You know, the emotions change, and the awareness now that the family has put around Russ, it feels like, oh, this is my time. The ball is flying around.
There's a part of Gary Gate that's wondering, is it supposed to be this easy? I shortchanged him one. It's hard to keep track. It's hard to keep up. We get to see Jack Savage at the Faceoff X. T.D. Erlin told me he might be the best athlete on the Syracuse team. Carter Rice, speed. Clark, creative ingenuity has been the lifeblood of lacrosse. And look at the smile for Gary Gate. He was telling us he wants to get to a point where guys are being creative and innovative. He wants to give his players that freedom, but that does have to be earned as well.
It does. It's earned by practice. It's earned by doing something being up to the standard to be able to compete with a team like Syracuse. At the end of the day, though, it gives this offense confidence. This is a real game action, right? You're looking at totally different than a scrimmage. In a scrimmage, you try a lot of things. In a game, it's
J.L. Reppert, the fourth head coach in the last 11 years at Holy Cross. We mentioned he took over just 2 weeks before last season started. Then 6 games in, the school canceled the rest of the slate for men's and women's lacrosse. How about the trail check? That was Rice laying out with a 16-goal lead. Kennedy in transition, threat as a lost
half.
Well, it started at the Faceoff X with Jacob Phaup. He was 15 out of 18 at the dot.
Absolute make it, take it, and it's created so many issues for the Holy Cross defense. They are exhausted. It's rep after rep, and Syracuse is using a ton of guys on the midfield.
Max Savage will take the first face-off of this second half for Syracuse, working against Connor DePiro. Savage was only 1 of 6 in that opening half. Turns into a 3-on-3 battle. Kennedy had the ground ball and plays it back. Time against Holy Cross last year when these two played. Savage wins the faceoff.
Virginia, that was 2018, and then Tucker Dordevic obviously had the injuries. He still has another year of eligibility after this year.
Here comes Savage. He's greedy. 22-3, Jack Savage. First career goal for the faceoff man.
We talk growth of the game, Anish. Back-to-back Oregon goals. Tucker Dordevic out of Portland. Well, Jack Savage is out of Portland too. Wins the face, takes it himself. Holy Cross is not playing Jack Savage as a shooter. They play the shooters tight on. You were saying this guy's a big-time athlete, Anish.
T.D. Erlin told me he might be the best athlete on the team, and all he needs is game reps. He's a Portland, Oregon kid, so not from... New goalie to begin the second half for Syracuse, Harrison Thompson. Backed up Drake Porter the last 2 years. Bobby Gavin, the Virginia transfer, got the start today. Thompson did see some time against Holy Cross last year when these two played. Savage wins the faceoff.
Some shooting drills in upstate New York this offseason, obviously.
You know the Simpsons meme, the stop, he's already dead? We're at that point.
Kavanaugh brother to play at Notre Dame. Those guys play with flair. Those guys play with creativity, and they have the horses in the middle of the field to give those guys looks to really show beast with the left hand. Nakai Montgomery makes plays both ways. We haven't even mentioned Matt Moore, and Brendan Curry will have something to say about being a fixture in the ACC, as will Tucker Dordevic. The talent's crazy field now. He's been a little nicked up in the preseason, but there's a lot more cut. Same high school as Bobby Gavin, and I mentioned their coach, John Ozissi. West Lacrosse is guess in the last 10 years, if that makes any sense.
It does, but I also go back to 2020, and maybe this is the part a lot of us missed. There may have been some fool's gold there. If you go back to that season, now they had beaten up on a pretty...
Final Fours, I think people that rooted for Syracuse and a part of the program, you get a little spoiled to some extent. I look at what like John Tillman's done with the game changing in the last decade. What has Maryland been to 7 Final Fours? You could argue that is...
Loyola returns a ton of talent. Maryland beat Loyola today 20-8.
Wow. Yeah, the Terps are loaded. They're loaded.
Listen, 28-5 looks great, but just pump the brakes just a little bit. Patrick Duffy is the new goalie for Syracuse, taking it step by step.